moving on to video number 2 now. So I would like to talk now in this video about some things that have happened recently in the autism world. Now, you may or may not be aware that 2 celebrities have recently been diagnosed with autism. Melanie Sykes my brain's gone blank. Melanie Sykes, Des and Mel. If you've ever watched that, it's an old show. It's not on air anymore. It's an old show. I'm not sure when it finished. I used to watch it actually. Sometimes when I used to watch it on my breaks when I was doing my A levels and when I came home before I went back to school again, because I live near the school, and I used to come back home and sometimes watch it while eating my lunch in front of the TV. Melanie Sykes, and she also used to be a model, by the way, has recently been diagnosed autistic, as has another celebrity called Christine McGuinness, who I'm not quite so familiar with. All I know is that she's married to Paddy McGuinness? Is it Formula 1? Something like that. I don't really know because I don't watch racing. I'm not into that thing, but I am aware. Yeah, because you're just aware of these names and that. And I guess because she's often longer, just a name that you're familiar with without really knowing who the person is. But I'm familiar with her anyway, but not in a big way. I'm more familiar with Mel Sykes because I used to watch her on TV. Yes, so Christine McGuinness, who's a model as well, and Melanie Sykes have both recently been diagnosed with autism, and it's been very much in the news lately. So what do I think about this as an autistic person myself? Now, I guess it's a bit that's going to be quite controversial now. So I'm prepared for some people to get quite, maybe not like what I'm about to say. Okay, let's just get it out there, shall we? I speak my mind. Let's just get it out there. I'm going to seriously offend some people, but I'm actually quite surprised. First of all, I'm actually quite surprised that Mel Sykes has been diagnosed autistic. The reason for this is she isn't disabled. She basically is pretty normal. Yeah, I'm going to get spat at. But it's what I think. I'm not going to hide what I think. Okay, my honest thing is that I'm quite surprised that she's been diagnosed autistic. Because I never picked it up. I often say I've got a kind of autism radar where I can kind of detect autism even in quite subtle cases. So yeah, I could detect it fairly well. Even in people who mask, I'm often quite good at picking it out, like a certain awkwardness, and I just don't get that from Mel Sykes. I don't understand why she's been diagnosed. I really don't. She's got an autistic son who I think was diagnosed at the age of 2 or 3 and is now 17. The only reason she got diagnosed is that she was doing she's set up some production company, I think, and she's going to be doing some documentary looking into the education system in the UK about autism, and she was working with someone called Harry Thompson, who's autistic and an advocate. I'm only very loosely familiar with him because I think I did watch a YouTube video he's on before. But yeah, he's autistic, and he basically met her for 10 minutes and suggested that she might be autistic after meeting her for 10 minutes to discuss this documentary, and he suggested that she go and get assessed, and she went, and on his word she went to get assessed privately. Obviously she wouldn't get done on the NHS because you need to be proper impacted to get diagnosed on the NHS, which is as it should be really. So she got diagnosed privately. And I did listen to an interview that she gave recently on, I think it was BBC Women's Hour, where she was talking about her issues, her sensitivities, which obviously I can relate to, difficulties tuning into people, different people, like round a table, for example, when she might, be instead someone on another table, she can't help but listen to someone else talking on another table when she's supposed to be focusing on people on her own table, difficulties channeling her attention between people in a group, and have difficulties with microphone feedback when she's on television, and things like that, which obviously, can be a sort of sensory issue, a sort of auditory discrimination issue, and an attentional difference, which obviously as an autistic I can relate to. She says that unlike the stereotype, she's very empathetic and deeply caring about other people, and is very, very responsive to other people's needs, which obviously I can't relate to because I have a more, I guess if you want to call it that, I have a more male type of autism, even though I'm female, and a more original stereotypical type of autism, and that I really do struggle with emotions, and I do care about people, don't get me wrong. I do care, actually, probably more than I make out. I do care about other people a lot, and and I wouldn't go out of my way at all to upset anyone. I do care about other people. I'm always quick to apologise if I've accidentally hurt someone. I do care about people. I'm not oblivious to other people, don't get me wrong, but I do really struggle with feelings, and I'm not very responsive because I'm quite self-absorbed. So I can't relate to that at all. And I do find that a lot of these autistics that are getting diagnosed nowadays, like particularly celebrities, do tend to have this profile which I can't relate to. But anyway, I do feel that. Okay, so that was the first thing I wanted to say, which is very controversial. I was surprised that she's autistic. Again, I guess probably many people are surprised. Because she's not disabled, she might have difficulties, but she, the sort of work that she does, she's very, very high functioning, which I was told recently in quite a rude way that the community does not like to use functioning labels. Well, I don't give a crap what the community thinks. I'm speaking on what I think. Groupthink just really pisses me off. If the community says you can't say something, you don't say it. Well, screw the community then, I don't like that, because I don't like it when people try and police your language. It actually makes, in a perverse way, it just makes me want to say the complete opposite just to be offensive, because I'm like, well, you can't tell me what to say. Cancel culture. Yeah, it's rife on Twitter. But I do feel, though, that some people do function better than others. I mean, what, are they going to say that someone who's non-verbal and in nappies all day is at the same functioning level as I am? I mean, don't take a piss, I'm way more high functioning than that, but at the same time, I can't function as well as, say, someone like Melanie Sykes. I'm a lot more, she's a lot more she can function a lot better than someone like me. Just as I function a lot better than someone in nappies who can't speak and he needs 24/7 supervision. And I think that what does annoy me is that while on the one hand I sort of feel that it's great that these people are getting answers if they do have difficulties, and and that if that makes them, helps them in any way, well then that you could say, well, that's good for them, sort of thing. But what does annoy me is that basically, I feel that the name autism has just become way too broad, and it's now basically losing all kind of internal validity, because it no longer, if you say the word autism, it can mean so many different things now that it literally doesn't mean anything. In the old days, even although we used to have these watertight categories, we had classic autism, we had Asperger's syndrome, and I think that's pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, PDD-NOS. So we had these watertight categories, and if you said you were diagnosed with one of those conditions, although obviously, it was understood there could be quite a broad array of different difficulties encompassed within each category. Nevertheless, if you said one of those categories, people in the know would have some idea about what you were describing. So, if you describe someone with Asperger's, the general idea would be that person is socially awkward, probably quite good verbal ability, but really struggles on the non-verbal, has difficulties with empathy and difficulties in theory of mind, very rigid, repetitive behaviours, maybe quite flat affect, not necessarily though, it could be exaggerated affect, but differences in facial expressions maybe, and difficulties understanding other people, like differences in eye contact, that sort of thing. And if you say classic autism, the understanding would be that person probably has very minimal to no verbal expression, is likely to need 24/7 supervision, and be very quite cut off from the world in a way, and a more pronounced expression of autism in some respects. But yeah, so people had like a kind of general idea. But now it's all been collapsed into this wider, broader autism spectrum, which has now become so broad, I feel, is losing all validity. So basically, when I originally found out I had Asperger's, this was before I got rid of the label. So I'm not quite sure where I stand now, because it almost seems a little bit like an anachronism saying Asperger's now, but it's still sort of, and I'm kind of like, I'm not quite sure where I stand on the whole thing, so won't go into that. But suffice to say, I met the original category Asperger's in quite a classic sense. Although I'm not stereotypical, because I'm not a boy, I'm not obsessed with maths, I'm not, a computer nerd, I'm not, that's a very, very narrow, more like TV type of Asperger's, which actually is a fiction. There's not, obviously there are some people with Asperger's who are exactly like what I just said, but it's, that isn't Asperger's, that's just what some TV person has decided makes good viewing. And it's become a sort of TV stereotype, if you like. But, so I'm not that stereotype, but at the same time I am quite stereotypical in the old sense, because this is what I mean by being classic Asperger's in the old sense. I'm hyperverbal, I really struggle to make friends, I